Hello, BookTube. With only a few days left in 2022, I thought it would be interesting to discuss some plans I have for my history reading and collecting in 2023. So, 2022 saw me continuing with my love of history. My history collection has ballooned over the past few years, although not nearly as much as manga has. But anyway, that's another video. Um, so I've been thinking about what history I want to focus on collecting wise as well as reading wise. So in 2023, I would like to collect more ancient history, primarily the history of ancient Egypt, the Near East, Anatolia, into the like Greece, largely Bronze Age, but a little Iron Age as well. I know there are a number of new releases coming out this year to coincide with the centennial of the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, which I'll be picking up either myself or be given, I guess, review copies by Steve Donahue, because I am the resident ancient Egypt reviewer for Open Letters, although I would like to expand that to the ancient Near East, an entire sort of region in the Bronze Age and beyond. But anyway, so more ancient history. I would also like to pick up more Chinese history, especially dynastic Chinese history. I do have some works of Chinese history, not as much as I would like. I would also like to pick up more Japanese history, which I have only one. I would like much more than that. And anything else that strikes my fancy. More German history, more, yeah, so pretty much whatever comes out that strikes my fancy. As far as reading's concerned, there is a big booktube event that's starting next year, Historiathon, which is hosted by Rivenet Reads and a number of other creators or booktubers, among them Bill Rutenberg and Mark Booktime with Elvis and The History Shelf. And I will be joining in. I don't know exactly how deeply I'll be joining in. I do have plans to read at least one work of history a month. So part of this video will be a bit of a TBR, tentative, because I don't know if anything will displace them. So Historiathon is a 12-month event in which participants read history, however many histories you want, although 4 seems a good baseline. But you can also expand it to more. I'm aiming for 12. So Historiathon is divided into 4 time periods. There's 2500 CE, 500 to 1500 CE, 1500 to 1820 CE, and 1820 to present, or since 1800 CE. And so each time period is divided into 3 months. So to 500 is January, February, March. 500 to 1500 is April, May, and June. July, August, and September get 1500 to 1820. And October, November, December, or past 1820. So I've been thinking of possibilities, and I've come up with an interesting tentative TBR. Tentative because I don't know if anything will displace them. Some of the books I know for sure are definite reads, and others are not. So let's get going. So the first two books I hope to get to, History Rise, or at least for this particular project, I don't have. They are new releases. So I'm hoping to pick up, well, I will be because I have it pre-ordered, but I'm aiming for, if it will cooperate, um, and of course it doesn't want to cooperate. Well, yeah. So, oh, that's a little too much. So, first up will be Pharaohs of the Sun, The Rise and Fall of Tutankhamun's Dynasty by Guy de la Bedoyere, I believe. Oh, there you go. So, this is a history of the 18th dynasty. It should be releasing January 3rd, and I have it pre ordered. And aim to review it for open letters. Also coming out on the 3rd is The Story of Tutankhamun, An Intimate Life of the Boy Who Became King by Garry J. Shaw. Let's see here if I can get it in. Okay. Okay, so yeah. So I'm aiming to get those two, although tentative, I might change my mind at any given point. And there are a few other works of ancient Egyptian history that I have that I would like to get to. Also would like to get during this period to read Papyrus, The Invention of Books in the Ancient World by Irene Vallejo, translated by Charlotte Wittle. So this is basically a history of books. And in fact, this was one of the books I had selected for my 12 TBR before I heard about Historiathon. And I was aiming to do this in August for Women in Translation Month, since this is a work in translation by a woman. So I was kind of excited for that. I do have a sweet tooth for history and translation because it always provides an interesting perspective. But I will be getting to this at least by March. Moving on to 500 to 1500, I hope to get to Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World by Jack Weatherford. This is a biography of Genghis Khan. The First Kingdom, Britain in the Age of Arthur by Max Adams. Hoping this actually, yeah. So, anyway, get to that. And The Restless Kings, Henry II, His Sons, and the Wars for the Plantagenet Crown by Nick Barratt. Which I really need to get to this one because I've had it for a few years now and it's well past time I get to. Moving on to 1500 to 1820, I hope to get to, and this will be a Bell Redemption. I originally had planned for this project to be all new reads, but I decided since in July I have started a bit of a Reading America project where I read some fiction, poetry, drama, and history that I kind of wanted to continue at that this year. And so I decided maybe for the history component, which could also add here, would be to Bail Redeem Our First Civil War by H.W. Brands. This is basically a history of the American Revolution, looking at it through the lens of the conflict between the Patriots and the Loyalists. I read it in, or had to go at it in November and bailed on it. And I'm hoping maybe a few months will be good for a Bell Redemption. I also am hoping to get to Peter the Great by Robert K. Massie. I've been wanting to read Robert K. Massie for a while. I've amassed quite a few of his books, and I think it's time to give Peter the Great a go. And I'm also hoping to get to The Enlightenment, The Pursuit of Happiness, 1680 to 1790 by Ritchie Robertson. This is a massive history of the Enlightenment, which was actually on my 12 TBR with an aim to read it in March because it is a mammoth and March is March of the Mammoths. So anyway, but I will be moving this one to August or September. Unless, of course, my reading plans for August and September get crowded and too crowded for such a large work of history. In which case I may have to put it back to another March of the Mammoths. Although I think there actually is a reading project later in the year, isn't there? Where you read, I mean, I don't know necessarily, I don't remember if it's slightly less than mammoth-sized books or if it's more than mammoth-sized books. So maybe if the event repeats again this year, maybe depending when it is, that might work for that. The Enlightenment might work for that. But anyway, moving on to since 1820. A lot of these books are mostly in the 20th century with some American history. First up is The Lost Promise, American Universities in the 60s by Ellen Schrecker. I picked this up late last year or early this year. I don't actually remember. But it's about American universities. Actually, oh no, it came out late last year, but I think I picked it up earlier this year. Anyway, doesn't matter. But anyway, I'm hoping to get to it soon. Next up is Outside the Gates of Eden, The Dream of America from Now Hiroshima to Now by Peter Bacon Hales. And finally, Gulag, A History by N. Applebaum. So anyway, that's my tentative, at least in part, my tentative history TBR for Historiathon and my history reading in 2023. I know right now I'm probably not sounding too obviously enthusiastic. I'm currently in the process of finishing up my last book of 2022. It's a work of history. It's about redemption, and it's a slog. I did not expect it to take an entire week to read, but it is, and while it's not necessarily bad, and I am, after a fashion, enjoying it, so it is sapping some of my enthusiasm for a history in 2023. Although maybe that's a good thing. I mean, I was hyper enthusiastic last year for an entire year of practical nothing but history, and it ended up blowing my face within a few days. So maybe a tamped down enthusiasm is appropriate. But anyway, BookTube, that's all I got for this video. I will be back in a few hours with my year in review, which will include some of the worst books I've read this year, some of the best books I've read this year, and sundry other bookish stuff that I kind of wanted to do it as a bit of an award show, but isn't quite turning out that way. So anyway, BookTube, I'll see what kind of video it actually turns into when I film it. But anyway, so I'm kind of rambling for right now. So I'll be back in a few hours with that video. So until then, thank you, BookTube. Have a great afternoon and stay safe and warm if you're still cold. And I guess if you're in the southern hemisphere, stay cool if you're a little too hot. Anyway, BookTube, see you in a few hours.